Now, recently there's a lot of furore over the Press Council of India chairman. Of course, I myself criticized him for the vituperative language which he used and asking for a danda so that he could use it, in the way he liked. But you see, but we need not overlook the bottom line. The bottom line is, and mind you, you see, I think the media should learn from this, that there's a large number of people, the public opinion, supporting what he says. Why? Because no one likes so many things which happen. Now, you see, these are all areas which need to be taken care of. Now, some particular things which I would like to mention which need to be media trials. Now, you see, media trials, the trial in the court has not begun, but then the trial in the media is continuously there. Before the trial takes off, you see, the trial here is completed and someone is convicted. And the next day, they say, no, not this fellow, the other fellow. Arushi murder case is the typical example. You see, now, everyone has been convicted and acquitted from time to time. Now, is that the role of the media? You see, forgetting that there is a legal aspect also to it, and you see, legal aspect is this serious contempt of court, because this interferes with the cause of justice. And not only that, you create a public opinion against someone which the court ultimately doesn't find to be justified. Now what happens to, you see, that, and supposing the court reaches the same conclusion, then the impression is that the court has been influenced by that. Now is that something which is desirable in a civilized system? That's not what the media is meant for. Media, well, when I pulled up some of these media persons, and of course which I keep on doing, unlike Justice Kardju, I don't use the danda, but I certainly pull them up and tell them what they should not do. And you see, I say another thing, the use of language. Now, recently we have had that, you see, because all that is in public knowledge, therefore I'm using the names, otherwise I would not have. The media said, tainted Thomas, the gentleman who was appointed CVC, and of course, for a good reason the court set it aside, because I believe, even otherwise I would like to believe that everyone, unless proved to be guilty, should be presumed to be honest and innocent. And many people from his fraternity have said that he is a person of, you see, great integrity. But the fact remains that he continues to be named as an accused in a criminal trial for corruption. You know, he may be, I would like to assume that he is innocent, but so long as the name continues as an accused, certainly he does not satisfy the test of impeccable integrity which is required for the appointment to that high office. And incidentally, you see, I am the cause of most of the trouble, because this expression also is used by me in one of the judgments, which is the test. Now, so, you see, but the media said tainted Thomas. You have finished. You have damaged the man's reputation. When it's all right. You could report that Mr. Thomas, who is named as an accused, was appointed, and you may ultimately report the judgment that was. But when you say tainted Thomas, then you see that adjective, was it necessary for the purpose of reporting? Wholly unnecessary. And then you see, these days, the matter 2G and CWG, etc., whereas the media is to be credited for highlighting the misdemeanor in high offices, corruption at high places. Actually, The first instance was the Hawala case, which also incidentally I was the one involved in, you see, presiding over that bench. And that judicial process of continuing mandamus or monitoring is attributed to me being developed in the Hawala case, which is being followed. But more than what is going on in the court is happening in the studios. Every day there is a panel discussion. And the panel discussion, you see, is to ensure, and everyone knows, so I don't have to name, there's one anchor who speaks more than all the 6 panelists. And one day I told him, I said, look here, of course, Council of India chairperson, because he had abused certain High Court judges in one of the High Courts and they didn't take any action. But I suspended the sentence, didn't send him to jail. But today I'm not too sure if I would have left you if I was there. And I said, you are lucky. Now, you see, people must, you see, what I've been warning them all the time. And I take this opportunity to say that because, after all, the media is very much concerned with this event. Now, what ultimately has happened, of course, I have myself said that was wrong. That's not the kind of decree to be passed. In the case of Justice Samant. So, you see, because that is a case, and the first thing is, well, with my experience, which was not short at all, both as a lawyer and as a judge, I am not aware of any case in which, what to say, of 100 crores, even a few crores have been awarded as damages. And even Bhopal gas tragedy, Upahar, I mean, all that. So 100 crores is absurd. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But you see, and I also said in that connection, which may have been reported also, that much earlier when I was also in the court, Justice V. Ramaswamy of the Supreme Court, he was impeached. And there was in a weekly magazine a report of his impeachment. And instead of his photograph, the photograph of K. Ramaswamy. Now both were in the Supreme Court. Now anyone could easily be misled. But all of us, including K. Ramaswamy, laughed it out. We said we just ignore it because we say, and Justice P.B. Samant is a person of high integrity. I mean, no. And this news item really speaks of a sitting judge of the Calcutta High Court where P.B. Samant was never a judge. He had retired. This news item speaks of a sitting judge. The photo by some act of negligence, etc., of some lower functionary was published, scolding the person, publishing an apology which was done, I believe, etc., or a token amount of a rupee or 100 rupees could be understood. But you see, but the fact remains, what is to be learned from this incident? What is to be learned from this incident is the lack of due diligence which is important. Because it was the lack of due diligence which resulted in it, and due diligence is necessary before you publish anything which is likely to damage the reputation of anyone or invade the privacy of someone. See, the courts have been very liberal, and I personally have always believed in that and continue to do so. That's why, I mean, I criticize this judgment, even though I've been pulling up the gentleman for doing what he does every day. Now, you see, the courts have held, and that is the law in India also, that unless there is proof of actual malice, which is rare, or reckless disregard for truth, so that if neither of these two things are there, then even a defamatory falsehood published about a public functionary in discharge of his public duties is not actionable. That is the extent to which freedom is given, but that's not to be misused. And reckless disregard for truth has to be very strictly construed, not mere minor negligence of this kind that because of the phonetic similarity between Samanta and Saman, some lower functionary pulled out a wrong photograph and published. So that margin is there, but the fact remains, why did it happen? I think that is what needs. It happened because of the kind of atmosphere which has been created. Everyone now talks. I mean, just because of this owner's duty that I have taken upon myself. You see, now everyone who meets me, he tells me, "Bhai, why don't you stop those people? They are doing this wrong thing every day," as if I am responsible for all that. Now, these are therefore content regulation, and the biggest challenge, this is what I want to emphasize, is this. The biggest challenge is to erosion of this freedom of press, that danger of erosion to the freedom of press, which ultimately would impinge or impact on the right to freedom of speech and expression of the people. Because if this is not controlled, then there would be justification, which people have already started talking about, of, you see, outside intervention and regulation. And what would happen then? Well, I don't know how many present here are aware, of course Mr. Murari would be. I was a judge from 72, so at the highest level, and therefore before the emergency came. I saw what happened, and it happened to, incidentally, my High Court opened on the 26th of June, the very next day after the emergency was imposed. And again, fortuitously, the first batch of habeas corpus petitions were filed before me in the court, and I was the one who entertained them till my view was overruled later on by which led to the amendment of the Constitution. So I know, and therefore I am more concerned, what will happen if the government intervenes, steps in and tries to regulate. And that is why I had to say, when the present chairman of the press council spoke in that language, that I am reminded of the language which we heard from the then Information and Broadcasting Minister, Mr. V.C. Shukla, that kind. Because if the press is controlled, nothing worse can happen. And therefore the courts have even been liberal to this extent. They have said, even if you have to leave out a few noxious branches, leave them, but don't, you see, do away with the tree, you see. But then don't give an occasion so that people ready with an axe in their hand, you see, step in to completely do away with the tree. That is the danger.